Chi-Chi's Restaurants was a Mexican food chain that operated from 1975 until 2004. Welcome to Eric C. Productions. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you get notified of my latest video that are posted during the week. Be sure to hit that like button and leave a suggestion or a comment. You might see that video in a future posting. This video was suggested by Juan Serrano. Thank you for your suggestion.
Chi-Chi's.
Can you ever have too much?
Shrimp tajitas.
Shrimp con queso.
Mexican fried shrimp.
Can you ever have too much? With the product Sunday of a good thing.
Not at these prices.
Chi-Chi's. Shrimp fiesta. A celebration of food.
Too much.
Chi-Chi's was founded in 1975 in Richfield, Minnesota, a suburb of Minneapolis, by a restaurateur, Marno McDermott. His wife's nickname was Chi-Chi, and former Green Bay Packers player Max McGee. The restaurant chain launched in the unlikeliest of places for a Mexican food chain, downtown Minneapolis. The timing was perfect, with Mexican food a trendy choice for diners at that time. It makes perfect sense in the context of its almost hilariously over-the-top inauthenticity. Chi-Chi's was supposedly named after Mrs. McDermott, although history does not record her reaction upon learning that the word is also a rather rude Mexican slang term for, breasts. Apparently a restaurant name that was not yet in use at that time. These entrepreneurs felt that time was right for a sit-down Mexican restaurant in the Midwest. Their profits went way beyond their expectations at $2 million. They took in 5 times the projected revenue that first year in business. Within a few years, the franchise operation was bought out and control was given to one of the former bigwigs at Kentucky Fried Chicken named Shelly Frank. The Midwestern restaurants remained quite successful, mostly due to the fact that they faced little or no competition or expectations when it came to Mexican food. When Chi-Chi's tried expanding into other markets like New York or Miami, places where people's taste buds were more refined, they didn't catch on. Their failures in Texas, California, and New Mexico were perhaps to be expected, but Chi-Chi's also failed to take hold even in New England or the Deep South. In the early 1980s, Chi-Chi's was one of the hottest chains going, opening 45 new restaurants within a 2-year period between 1981 and 83. Frequently, these new restaurants would see profits of up to $80,000 per week, which was big stuff for the early 80s. By 1986, there were more than 200 Chi-Chi restaurants throughout the nation. Even as they were at their peak, their profits were starting to slide. It seems that the larger restaurants they were opening during their frenzied early 80s growth spurt were just too large to operate at a profit. Too rapid growth also contributed to numerous problems at the corporate level, with an insanely high 80% management turnover rate leading to inconsistencies in food and service that did not do the chain any favors. While Chi-Chi's might have introduced Mexican food to certain markets, at least in the Midwest, it also opened the door for other Mexican restaurant chains such as El Torito, Chevy's Mexican Food, and On the Border, all of which would soon be expanding to compete with Chi-Chi's throughout the United States. As the population of Mexican immigrants continued to grow and expand throughout the United States in the latter part of the 20th century, these new immigrants brought with them their food traditions. What this meant, particularly for those of us not living in one of those southwestern border states, was that we were finally able to taste Mexican food as it was meant to be, and we found out, much to our surprise, that it was nothing whatsoever like the food that Chi-Chi's had been dishing up. Back in the 80s, certain Chi-Chi's were popular among teenage drinkers. In Chi-Chi's earlier years, a certain amount of teenage drinking was actually legal. Yes, believe it or not, boomers and early Gen Xers were legally able to drink at age 18, right up until 1984 when the National Minimum Drinking Age Act raised the drinking age to 21. Not shocking, Chi-Chi's profits took a tumble after that year. After Chi-Chi's struggles in the 1980s, they were bought out by Food Maker Inc., the fast food conglomerate that owned Jack in the Box. Any original menu items, even remotely resembling Mexican cuisine, were replaced by Tex-Mex and Mexicanized American items like pizza, pasta, and stir-fry. Sales soon started to slip again, and restaurants kept on closing. From a 1986 high of 200 restaurants, Chi-Chi's was down to 150 and still dropping by the end of the 90s. The number of locations slipped to 144 by 2002. In 2002, Chi-Chi's debt-ridden parent corporation, Prandium, declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy. While Prandium would eventually remain intact from their own bankruptcy proceeding the next year, Chi-Chi's themselves would file for bankruptcy in 2003, and for them, there would be no recovery. By 2004, Outback Steakhouse would purchase 76 remaining Chi-Chi's restaurants, complete with all furniture and fixtures, with the stated intent to convert at least some of the properties to its own brand of restaurants. While many businesses not only survive but thrive after bankruptcy, Chi-Chi's was dealt a fatal blow, literally, for several customers as well as the company, by something totally unexpected: a massive hepatitis outbreak. While they originally suspected unsafe food handling practices, the source was eventually determined to be green onions used as the ingredient in dishes including salsa. By the time the outbreak was over, it had made 660 people, including 13 restaurant employees, sick. What's worse, 4 people had actually died. Over 9,000 people exposed to the hepatitis had to be inoculated against the disease. Even though Chi-Chi's had declared bankruptcy prior to the hepatitis outbreak, the bankruptcy court nevertheless modified the order to allow hepatitis victims to proceed with lawsuits against the chain. Among the payouts, Chi-Chi subsequently made an $800,000 class action settlement paid out to those who needed to be immunized after hepatitis exposure, and a $6.25 million settlement to a man whose hepatitis had caused them to require a liver transplant. Before Chi-Chi's folded, they had to shell out at least $40 million in hepatitis-related settlement payouts. They, in turn, sued the Green Onion supplier, but they were unsuccessful. Hey, if you just watched my video, thanks for watching. Hit that like button and please subscribe to Eric C. Productions.